Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Khalid. But today is Friday, the 20th of December 2024. These are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the US sanctions that have recently been imposed on Pakistan, which came as a surprise to many. Nevertheless, these realities are out there. 4 organizations have been sanctioned by Pakistan, on Pakistan in fact, by the US, and as you can see in the parallel window, the names of these 4 organizations are coming on your screens. The National Development Complex, Akhtar & Sons, Affiliates International and Rockside Enterprise. 3 of them in Karachi, 1 is based in Islamabad. We have had a very stern reaction by the Foreign Office as well as by other analysts also since these sanctions came. And then comes another statement by the Deputy National Security Advisor, John Feiner. We will go into the details of that statement and the general US perspective towards Pakistan as well as far as these sanctions and its relationship with Pakistan is concerned. We'll try to highlight and understand the complexities of the situation in our first segment. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about social media influence on the youth, which leads to high levels of anxiety, stress, sometimes leading to depression and other such effects. This is an important avenue because of the fact that most of the youth in Pakistan that form the crux, the majority of 60% plus, use the social media platforms for one use or the other. Where how is social media impacting their daily lives, their lives within the community and in the family is what we will discuss in the second segment. Then we are going to talk about a lawsuit that has alleges that the US failed to evacuate Palestinian Americans that were trapped in Gaza. Now 9 Palestinian Americans have sued the US government on Thursday, yesterday, that alleges that it had failed to rescue them or members of their families who were trapped in Gaza, where Israel's war has now killed tens of thousands. We've been highlighting the issue in Palestine on a very regular level. Finally, we are going to talk about a court that has stepped in to sort an Indian couple's 3-year baby name battle. It's normal in any family, whether it be Pakistan or in other countries as well, including India, to look for or dispute the name for a boy or a girl. But this dispute went so far as to divorce proceedings. And now this issue has finally been settled. Well, this is going to be the lineup for today. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the US sanctions on Pakistan, the impact on the relations, and of course why these sanctions in the first place, and why Pakistan single-handedly put as far as these sanctions are concerned. We've been joined by 2 guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Brigadier retired Masud Ahmed Khan Sahab. He's a defense analyst. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, who's the former ambassador to the United Nations. Dr. Sahiba, it's a pleasure to have you on board as well. We'll begin with Brigadier Masud Sahab. Brigadier Masud Sahab, many questions that emanate when it comes to the sanctions, but I'll begin with the reaction that came from the Foreign Office yesterday. The Foreign Office says that these recent sanctions that have been imposed by the United States on these 4 organizations is, it's strange to say the least. Pakistan considers these decisions to impose sanctions on these commercial entities as unfortunate and biased. This is what the Foreign Office says. How does Pakistan view, how does the Pakistani government, the administration view these sanctions that have been imposed on the National Development Complex? And this is the first time that we are hearing of the NDC and sanction on NDC and these 3 commercial entities. Do you feel, or does Pakistan believe that these sanctions are going to impact the region or Pakistan?
First of all, we must appreciate the stand taken by the Foreign Office and the strong verdict response which has been given. I think that has been appreciated across the country. And secondly, it will not have any impact as far as is concerned. For the first time, this time NDC has been highlighted. But if you recall, it was in 1985 when Presidential Amendment was, then economic and military sanctions were there, and then in 1998 again when we went for the atomic explosions, then there was sanctions. In 2003, 2004, 2005, 2011, again in 2011 5 companies again they were accused of involved in this missile development activities. So they were again banned in 2020, 2022, and this year again 3 times we have seen when the companies including Chinese and Belarusian company, they were banned for helping Pakistan. So we can say it is not the first time. Then it will not have any worthwhile impact as far as Pakistan capability is concerned. Pakistan has already developed this technology, so Pakistan has now the capability domestically to manufacture those components and the equipment required. That is one thing. Overall, I can say it is politically motivated, it is one-sided, it is biased decision taken by the United States administration. Look, in case of India, they acquired S-400 from Russia, and that was the violation of CAATSA, the legislation which was passed by the United States, probably it was passed by the Congress. And in that, they were not supposed to get these S-400, any sort of weapons and equipment from Russia. So, but in that case, that was ignored. A sort of a waiver was given to the Indians. So, S-400, they have the capability to strike inside Pakistan. They, with those radars, they can monitor activities inside Pakistan, almost 600 deep inside Pakistan. So, I must say it was biased, and as a sovereign country, Pakistan has the right to defend its territorial and integrity and sovereignty at all costs, and it has the right to develop weapons. So, to protect, look at Pakistan's background right from 1947. We have went for a war with India 3 times. We have war on Siachen, then Kargil, and now India has deserted Pakistan, confronted Pakistan with the 5th generation warfare, hybrid warfare from the east, and again on the west, from the western side. So, we are facing terrorism, and Pakistan, then we saw recently, couple of probably a year back, when Iran fired missile in Pakistan, then Pakistan has to respond to those.
I know, and I understand Pakistan's perspective as well, as far as all of this is concerned. But it's very strange the way the US has reacted, and now under the Biden government, when the Biden government is leaving. Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saiba, on Thursday, that is yesterday, a couple of hours back, a senior White House official says Pakistan is developing these capabilities that eventually could allow it to strike targets, quote unquote, out of South Asia, and he mentions the US. He says this is an emerging threat to the US when he talks of Pakistan's capabilities. Does the US seriously think that Pakistan's strategy is a threat to the US, or are there other things at play in this whole sanctions game that we are seeing since the last few days?
Well, it's certainly the first time a US official has publicly said that Pakistan's long-range missiles pose a threat to the United States. Privately, they have conveyed this several times. And of course, Pakistan has responded by saying what we have said for the last several decades, which is that our missile program, like our nuclear capability, is for deterrent purposes. It is India-specific. It's not aimed at any other country. And of course, we have explained many a time that a credible deterrent requires missile development in view of India's advanced ballistic missile defense system, for which it got US and Israeli help. And of course, it's developed it from its own technology as well. So frankly, this statement by a US official that Pakistan's long-range missiles pose a threat to his country is disingenuous, as the US administration is well aware that Pakistan's missile capability is only India-focused.
We seem to have lost touch with Dr. Maleeha Lodhi. As soon as we get her back, we're going to continue our conversation. I'll ask the same question to you, Brigadier Saab. When you look at this recent statement that has come from John Feiner, who's a Deputy National Security Advisor, who says Islamabad's conduct raises real questions about the aims of Pakistan's strategic program. I fail to understand this perspective, because when we see right in our border, and you've pointed out in the answer as well, when India is also, going ahead with the same programs, we don't hear anything happening as far as that is concerned. And Pakistan's program has always been of a certain nature. It has never aimed to strike countries outside the region. It is mostly for defense purposes. Why then are we seeing sanctions followed by statements?
First of all, the Pakistani program is defensive in nature, and that is. And secondly, when we talk of the missile technology in South Asia is concerned, Pakistan is basically has developed these weapons. Basically these are Indian specific. But the statement which is made by the John Feiner, and he says now beyond South Asia and targeting America, and look at the double standard, regrettably double standards. The Indians, they are having Agni 5, which has a range of 10,000 kilometers. They started with Agni 1, 2, 3, Agni 3, 5 to 7,000 kilometers. So Agni 5, 10,000 kilometers. So they are not questioning Agni 5. So they are afraid of Pakistan developing anything going ahead of Shaheen 3, which we are having at present a range of 2,750 kilometers. So they are afraid now. So basically it is, I think it is not America as a target. We have nothing to do with America as far as these missiles are concerned, because our interest is in America because of our imports. This is the biggest market as far as imports are concerned. But it is something politically motivated and keep Pakistan on pressure, and certainly double standards. And look, they are stopping Pakistan. Look, they could not able to stop North Korea for developing these nuclear weapons. They have weapons, these missiles, ballistic missiles, 5,000 plus range, the North Koreans, which is 10 times smaller than Pakistan. How could the Americans, how can they stop Pakistan from developing these missiles? That is one thing. And then Pakistan is twice the size of this Russia. So Pakistan has the capability and has all the potentials to develop these nuclear weapons for its sovereignty, territorial integrity. If India can develop these weapons of mass destruction, and with having range of 10,000, now they are going ahead of those. So Pakistan has this right. So nobody can stop Pakistan. It is basically, as we say, it is the sacred trust, as Foreign Office has said, which has been bestowed by the people of Pakistan in the political and military leadership. So there will be no compromise as far as
Pakistan's program is concerned. All right, there will be no compromise as far as Pakistan's program is concerned. Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, the Foreign Office spokesperson, says double standards and discriminatory practices not only undermine the credibility of non-proliferation regimes. And of course, do you feel, in your point of view, that what the US sanctions represent as far as Pakistan is concerned is US double standards? If so, why?
Well, I think if we look at the history of the Pakistan-US relationship, since the very inception of Pakistan's nuclear program, which was decades ago, Washington has never accepted Pakistan becoming a nuclear power. It has used all sorts of sanctions and embargoes against Pakistan to stop or retard its nuclear efforts. But that policy failed, as will the present sanctions, to change Pakistan's defense posture and its defense endeavors. Pakistan has repeatedly told the United States, I myself, as ambassador to the United States twice, have been engaged in talks on the nuclear and missile issue with American officials. And we have said to them repeatedly that our national security is non-negotiable. So, I mean, they know very well that our program and our missile development has nothing to do with them. It is India-specific. It is a response and an effort to deter any kind of aggression from the Indian side. And a credible deterrent requires missile development, especially in view of India's advanced ballistic missile defense systems, for which, as I said before, it got US and Israeli help. So really, I mean, the statement by the US official that Pakistan's missiles pose some kind of a threat to his country is disingenuous. It's absolutely false. And, it completely overlooks and ignores what Pakistan has been saying to the Americans.
You on that, Dr. Saiba. Also, I'd like to couple two questions and ask you this next question. How are these sanctions going to impact Pakistan diplomatically or otherwise? Do you feel there are some diplomatic pathways to resolve or mitigate effects of these sanctions, if any? Then I'd like to understand how these sanctions fit into the broader context of US foreign policy that concerns non-proliferation and security in South Asia.
These American sanctions, as you know, this is the sixth or the seventh time in the last 4 years that sanctions have been imposed on Pakistani entities. They'll have zero impact. They have no impact on Pakistan. They will not change Pakistan, as I said before, its missile policy. It's not going to deter Pakistan from pressing ahead with what it needs to in order to ensure effective defense of the country. So I mean, this is part of a failed U.S. policy. They have used sanctions for as long as I can remember on the nuclear and missile question. And it has failed. It has failed, but the U.S., I guess, is obliged to act according to its laws. It has its laws, and it acts according to those laws. But that doesn't mean that Pakistan has to respond to what the United States wants Pakistan to do.
All right. It's very strange, to say the least, the way we see this reaction coming at this stage as far as the US is concerned. Brigadier Saab, when it comes to the Foreign Office statement, they also talk about this sanctions that have been imposed by the US could endanger regional and international peace as well. How do you see the different paradigms of regional and international peace that could be affected by US sanctions on Pakistan?
Because we consider these Pakistan missile programs and nuclear program is basically that has ensured balance of power in South Asia. If you give a preferential treatment to India and allow them to go ahead with anything they feel like, but at the same time you impose sanctions on Pakistan, so that is not acceptable to Pakistan. So we say there should be no intrusion as far as our missile and this nuclear program is concerned. So that is very important. And another thing is, for Pakistan, I think there are some red lines. One is the nuclear program is red line. The other is your missile technology, and then it is Jammu and Kashmir, and then of course CPEC and China. So there will be no compromise as far as these things are concerned. So we cannot come under the pressure of United States. As Dr. Saiba has said, it is not the first time. They have been doing in the past, but we have continued with our development, and still we will go ahead with the developments in future as well.
All right, Dr. Saiba, I'd like to understand, what does Pakistan mean by calling its strategic program a sacred trust?
I think what it refers to is two things. The first, that there is a firm national consensus in support of our nuclear capability. And secondly, because there is a national consensus, people repose a lot of confidence, and therefore it becomes a sacred trust. People trust those who are responsible for the defense of this country to ensure the safety and security of our nuclear program. And I think basically that's what it refers to.
Brigadier Saab, another statement during this conversation by the spokesperson of the Foreign Office talks about accentuating military asymmetries. What does that mean?
And probably they are trying to take all the things and to implicate Pakistan, and this is not the first time, and we have seen with the recent development and the statement which is made by the Matthew Miller, and then the statement made by this John Feiner, and they are trying to basically with all these things to put Pakistan under pressure by all means before the Trump administration takes control of the administration. So probably It is now up to the new administration. I think they should take a review of this situation, and we expect the new administration reviews the decision taken by the Biden administration. We expect an credible evidence from the Americans for that which they have taken the decision, and of course then a dialogue between the two countries to address these the trust deficit, the misunderstanding between the two countries.
All right. Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, now that Brigadier Saab mentioned Matthew Miller, in September, the State Department had imposed sanctions on certain countries, and days later, while reaffirming Pakistan's stance as a long-term partner, Matthew Miller, who was the State Department spokesperson, emphasized that Washington will not hesitate, quote-unquote, to impose sanctions on allies, quote-unquote, when it comes to protecting its own interests. Is the US protecting its own interests while imposing sanctions on Pakistan?
Well, you should ask them that. I can't answer on behalf of the United States. If they're protecting their own interests, good luck to them. As far as my country is concerned, we are protecting our interests. And I don't think we should get so het up about all of this. I mean, they've used these methods so many times before. So I don't think we should hype it and psych ourselves up. Fine. I don't think we should be bothered, frankly. We should respond as the Foreign Ministry has responded. We should point out the duplicity, the double standards, and the fact that this is a discriminatory policy. But beyond that, I mean, it doesn't really affect us in terms of any material impact on us. So, I mean, I really do think that, you know, it shouldn't get into a sound and fury, which just goes on and on and on. Okay, they've taken action. They have taken these actions in the past also. Did it stop our nuclear program? No, it didn't. Did it affect our economy? No, it didn't. So I think we should be self-confident. We should exude that we have absolute confidence in ourselves and our defense capabilities, and that they're most welcome to take whatever action they want. But it's not going to change our policy.
Also, I'd like to understand, you know, you being an ambassador, former ambassador to the US as well, and at the United Nations as well. Diplomatically, now that we've seen the statements, Pakistan has the Foreign Office has given a very stern statement, we've had the response. What now? How should Pakistan move forward diplomatically?
I think this issue, I think we should let it rest now. I mean, they've said their piece. We have said our piece. I think there is a statement that we're expecting from ISPR also. So our defense spokesman will also say something on this, and then we move on. I mean, remember that these sorts of actions do inject strains in the relationship, but the relationship has weathered these strains in the past. I mean, the history of these actions is a very long one. You know, before the nuclear test, after the nuclear test, the US has taken all sorts of actions. They embargoed our equipment. They confiscated our F-16s. You remember all of that. Why do you think they did that? They could never accept Pakistan as a nuclear power then, and I don't think they want to do that now. But that doesn't change the reality. Pakistan is a nuclear power, and there's nothing that the Americans can do to change that.
Principal Deputy Spokesperson of the State Department, Vedant Patel, has said that it was a long-standing policy of the US to deny support to Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile program. We understand the US perspective. We also know the Pakistani perspective. We also have heard Dr. Maleeha Lodhi talk about, you know, that peace has been said from the Pakistani side, from the US side. As far as Pakistan's strategic capability is concerned, does it affect it in any way whatsoever? I know it won't, but how should Pakistan maneuver itself strategically from now onwards? You said there are strong relations with the US as well. Pakistan and US have had long-standing relations. How to move forward under the ambit of these relations now under this context?
If we see the historical relation between Pakistan, right from early 50s, we were with them as part of Sinto. Then when the Russians, they invaded Afghanistan, we were with Americans, and subsequently war on terror, etc. and Doha Accord. So we facilitated, we brought Taliban on the table, so etc. But no Americans, they consider the priority of this region has basically has been lowered as far as the Americans are concerned, especially when we talk of Afghanistan. Irrespective, they are forgetting that Islamic State and Al Qaeda, they are gaining strength inside Afghanistan, and they are becoming a threat to international peace. But unfortunately, regrettably, and they have given the importance, and they have divided their attention to Ukraine as well as to the Middle East and now the recent development in Syria. So, as far as just to conclude, for Pakistan, the entire nation, the political parties, the civil society, they are united, they are one as far as the preserving the Pakistan nuclear program as well as the missile program is concerned. There will be no compromise as far as this program is concerned. So the message is very loud and clear, and probably the MOFA has already given that there will be no compromise as far as, because our sovereignty and territorial integrity is linked with nuclear and missile program.
All right. Last question to you, Dr. Maleeha Lodhi. As far as Pakistan-US relations is concerned, do you feel Pakistan is no longer a priority as far as US foreign policy is concerned in the region? Will things change in the future? Will the Trump administration make some impact, or will it be status quo?
Well, Pakistan-US relations are at an inflection point and have been so since the US military withdrawal from Afghanistan. After that, relations have been at a crossroads and continue to be there. I think Pakistan has diminished geopolitical relevance and importance in Washington's eyes because Washington's top priority is containment of China, and Pakistan cannot be part of any anti-China coalition. The US has made its strategic choice. Its strategic choice and its partner of choice in the region is India. It's not Pakistan. Pakistan has also made its strategic choice. Its partner is China. So I think the challenge for the bilateral relationship in the months to come would be to see how much space there is between these realities, the Indo-US relationship and the Pakistan-China relationship. And it's that space that I think the two countries will need to explore to see where the convergences lie, because we know where the divergences lie.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, to have joined us, former ambassador to the UN and to the United States, and of course in the studio. Thank you very much, Brigadier Masud Ahmed Khan, Sub-Defense Analyst, to have joined us and given us your, very important point of view as far as this whole change in the situation as far as Pakistan-US strategic relations are concerned. Thank you very much to have joined us. Let's come to our second story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns social media influence on the youth, leading to anxiety, leading to stress, sometimes leading to depression as well. On the mental health front, with the Gen Z, if we can call it that, or with the youth across the world, we are seeing a lot of changes. Their dependability as far as social media is concerned and social media platforms is concerned. And that also has resulted, as a lot of analysts say, in alienation of the youth from their surroundings, from other youth, from their family structure. And this causes a lot of issues, whether it be mostly mental, but also familial and otherwise. Whether it be on the education front, whether it be in interpersonal relationship front, a lot seems to have changed since the impact of social media, despite the fact that many of the big social media platforms will never accept it, the fact the realities paint a very different picture. We thought we should highlight this impact on the youth of the social media. I know social media has a lot of positive contributions to the public as well, the wealth of information that is there, but sometimes the wealth of disinformation that is there as well. Nevertheless, the mental health of any generation across the world is extremely important, especially the youth that are, of course, our future generations that are going to lead the world in the coming years. We've been joined by Farwa Naqvi. She is a physiotherapist, psychotherapist rather, and she joins us online, not in the studio. Farwa, thank you very much to have joined us. Farwa, I'm sure a lot of people must have asked you the same question. My son or my daughter is using the phone. He or she is using it too much. I ask him or her to come and have food with us. He or she doesn't, or delays, or on the table he or she is still using the phone. I ask him or her, and the answer is mostly aggressive in nature. And then the boy or the girl is mainly secluded in his or own world because of the the interaction that he or she has directly or indirectly with the social media. Do you feel there is more stress, anxiety, depression or other issues, especially within the youth, because of the impact of social media?
Firstly, thank you for having me, and congratulations to you and your team for actually having a mental health professional talk about it, because everybody talks about it and without the expertise also. So I think it's very rare if you speak to a mental health practitioner about it. So firstly, I don't think that is the cause of everything. That's very parent-like and a teacher-like, that because you're using the phone,
yes,
that's the reason of whatever is happening.
But there is anxiety, you have to admit it, there is depression, there is a lot of stress in this youth. And does social media contribute to it?
Yeah, so first of all, we need to see that why is the youth resorting to the overuse of this thing, and why is it being attracted to it so much. So when we talk about other forms of addiction, if we say social media addiction, if we say drug addiction or activity addiction or any kind of other gambling, there are a lot of other things. But when you have something going on and you want to regulate your nervous system and you want to use it as a medication to your distress, that something is underlying. So social media is just a mean of distracting yourself, if we talk about children. And yeah, definitely the impact is awful that we're going to talk about, but I don't think that social media is the root cause of the anxiety and the depression. Yeah, it adds into it, because just like addiction, there is something, and you want to resort to drug abuse, and then other things come across, you come across other things that are a part of drug addiction, but that's not the root cause of it, right? That's some kind of trauma, some kind of wound or stress. So as you're talking about parents, it's not the day one now that your children have just started using it.
No, but it is a gradual process that we are seeing.
Yeah, but in the childhood, you're the one who just just go over there and use this.
And you're seeing so much of that, the young parents even give their children the laptops or the iPads or whatever they can give, even the phones to use to play games, and it begins at a very early age, doesn't it?
Yes, and fast food and all kinds of accessories and everything. They see something in the YouTube or other social media channels and they want it, and then parents quickly resort to giving them and then throwing tantrums. And I see so many kids who cannot contain their feelings, who cannot contain in their body being uncomfortable. There was a time when we were young and we used to feel bored. It doesn't happen anymore because you can't contain those feelings, and it's very bad for the kids. It's awful because I can see a lot of addictive potential developing in the kids from that age.
Has social media changed social behavior of the youth?
Definitely. Everything happens for the gram, as you say. Something that I personally feel very bad about these days is the influencing behavior and the consumerism that is going on. I mean, on people from different social levels, this is impacting them so badly. Kids want things that they are made to feel are necessities, or if you don't have these things, or you're not doing those behaviors, and if you're not attending those restaurants or those events, it is made to feel to the
there are certain benchmarks that social media has placed on the youth, and they have to abide by those benchmarks, or else it seems that they are made to feel that they're not normal.
Yeah, and so the relationships with the parents will deteriorate because the parent cannot get you everything at that time. And so different social groups, an influencer will be targeting a specific audience, but everybody is there on social media and everyone is being influenced, is the problem over there.
That is the problem, and I think it's more of a familial problem as well, because it passes on from one generation or the other, and then a lot of the families don't see anything bad in it. What if, I mean, all right, on the dining table it's fine, but otherwise nobody would stop you from using the mobile phone at a certain age. And you see different countries, for example, I mean, I just want to put an example of Australia that has put a ban on the children under 16 and the use of social media. Do you feel this step is something that needed to be taken? Is it a bit too extreme? Should other countries follow suit? Should there be some kind of a limit of social media use for minors?
So, you know, it impacts on the, it depends actually on the content that is being, you know, produced. So, in Pakistan and maybe, you know, South Asia and other parts of the world too, it's a very easy form of money, easy way of money. And my concern is also, one of my concerns is that from now on, the next generation will not want to become journalists or therapists or professionals. I mean, why go through such hassle in order to become somebody when you can have an account and have views and, you know, do antics and then get money? So the problem there is that these days there's no literacy, there's no you know, there's a very lack of educated and some meaningful content that is being produced or being watched. So even if it is being produced, it's not watched because lack of education. So people are resorting to, you know, millions of views. There are millions of views on content which is like antics. And I somehow feel that, you know, when your body, every organ of the body has a specific function to perform, and if there is an organ that is overperforming, so that becomes cancerous for you, right? So such is the case with content. Yeah, we're all for freedom of expression, but if you're meaninglessly producing something which has no meaning, then of course it is going to impact. And the impact would be reverse.
Now, Farwa, you know, there's something very interesting. You see the young children, boys and girls everywhere, and it's not generic, it's not specific to Pakistan, India, or the subcontinent, or Asia. It's global, you know, even in Africa, you see the same. Children spend time online, their friends spend time online, they interact with each other online instead of physically, you know, talking to each other. They don't read books, they, you know, there are communities on social media that they interact through instead of interacting in real time as well. Do you feel social media has actually rewired our childhoods or the childhoods of the young generation?
So the brain is designed to adapt. It does adapt to different situations right now. I mean, like with electricity, lights, everything, such is the case with the screen as well. But yes, it definitely has rewired, and your nervous system gets activated all of the time. You know, you have that dopamine hit, of course. So your brain chemicals, they get impacted. Your nervous system is all of the time, you know, overstimulated. And another thing that happens right now in this world, which didn't used to happen before, is that now we can be on the front line as well as we can witness something traumatic and something, you know, like killings and this mass killing and, you know, the genocide first hand over here. We can watch it. We used to listen to these stories first, but now, so I can be traumatized over here watching something that's happening far away. So even those things, like, you know, it really impacts our nervous system and traumatizes us.
And, you know, as a child, you no longer become a child. You become an adult very, very early on, instead of, you know, going through your normal age process. And I think mentally also it has its impacts, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's traumatizing. Yes, it does impact your brain, it does impact your nervous system. And especially, you know, when there are no means and no awareness of mental health and no means of taking care of now what to do next, now that, you know, this is happening. So firstly, parenting is the most difficult thing, one of the most difficult jobs in the world, but we really need to look into it because the child will feel lonely at home. You know, you have your family, you have a big family, your father, mother, your, you know, siblings and your friends and your cousins, everybody. Still, if you are having to watch a reel of somebody else vlogging about their family and you want to feel a part of that family because you feel, you know, isolated or you feel lonely in your house, then, you know, there is something up with, and that's the responsibility of the parents.
All right.
Because right now, parents are not listening to kids. Everything stems from parents being emotionally unavailable to the kids. So of course, they're going to resort to, I mean, social media can, yeah, it has its own harms. If we compare it, it can be better to going for drugs.
Oh, all right, if you say so.
Yeah, because, you know, when parents are going to be emotionally unavailable, Pakistan is a country where, you know, sexual abuse is rampant. In the first 6 months of 2024, there were 1,600 reported cases of child abuse. We have so much child abuse. We have what not is going on over here. So if a child is resorting to social media, then I feel that the parents also need to kind of like be the supplier of love and connection that
All right.
he's trying to get from
Farwa,
that.
what is the responsibility? You talked a little bit about the responsibility of the parents, but these young boys and girls also go to educational institutions. What should be the responsibility of such educational institutions worldwide? I'm not being country specific, region specific here.
So educational institutions in Pakistan are business institutes. They are going to sell, your question is very contrary to their purpose, because they want to sell a cool place in which things are happening, and you can use things, you can put things on Instagram, and different apps, you can market them, and kids can be like, let's go to that school because that school is cooler. So they're also influencers in a way.
So basically it influences, it changes tendencies, and it's it changes human behavior as far as what to do and how to lead your life at a very early onset.
Haven't you seen so many shows happening, and concerts and things happening in an education institute where it's supposed to propagate some educational literacy in you, but that is not the motive.
That has nothing to do with social media, I feel, because that is another discussion. But I'd like to understand legislation. Do you feel legislation across the world, we've seen what Australia has done, should other countries follow suit?
I think there needs to be some kind of a regulation check and balance on the content that is being provided as well.
All right.
Yeah. So
how do you do that?
I'm not an expert.
Okay. No, but I mean, should there be parental guidance on social media platforms? Should there be certain passwords that should be put on children under the age of 16 or under the age of 10 as far as usage of social media is concerned?
I think legislation is important, but implementation is also very important, because these days on social media in Pakistan, if we talk about Pakistan, I mean violence and all kinds of abuse and firing, aerial firing,
but
those
that is
things
everywhere.
are
You see in the US, you see in Europe, you see the same violence, you see the same abuse, you see the same. It is a very global phenomenon, but does social media have an impact on the trends of violence that are happening?
See, those countries that you talked about, at least there is some implementation and there's some law and order situation where something can happen over there. Here it can happen. Why? Because then again social media becomes a tool to doing that, because if you kind of like make a viral trend of it, then something will happen. So social media here also has the positives here, but when we talk about kids, definitely.
But this is something that is global, Farwa, to be very upfront about it. I see that in Europe. I've been to Europe many a times, and I see the same attitude as far as social media and the violent patterns that you talk about there as well. It's more or less a global thing, but I think that the mentalities towards how to change the perspective of the youth of the world. I'm not being Pakistan specific at all again, Farwa. When it comes to social media usage is concerned, how would you as a psychotherapist take measures? I mean, if you were to be asked to take measures or implement measures for a certain community so that the children are less reliant on social media and more reliant on actual facts and figures and social interaction, what would you do?
So I am being Pakistan specific because the reason for that is that every country has their own parenting styles, their own trends, the trends of the law, and so we cannot apply a general concept everywhere. If Australia thinks that's the thing for them, it can be. But in Pakistan, we really have to focus more upon emotionally available parenting. In America, there's different, young parents, there are different issues. So we can't, talk about all of them like that. But the thing is, when you're talking about, what can we do over here, if we talk about that. So of course, parents need to be more emotionally regulated. Nervous system needs to be regulated so that they can make space for the kids. They can actually provide the kid with connection so that the kid can experience and the child can know that this is what connection is. What I'm being sold is an illusion of connection.
Social media sometimes or many a times does that as well, but you need to know the difference between what to choose, what not to choose, how to live your best. As a child, of course, you don't know that. So you need to have, as you said, proper parenting in order for the child to understand what's right and what's wrong. That's what parents do, don't they? Farwa, thank you very much to have joined us. Kindly stay online in the studios with me. I so mix the online and in studios here. Kindly stay in the studios for 2 more minutes while I end my show. I have 2 stories to share with you very quickly. The first concerns 9 Palestinian Americans who have sued the US government yesterday, alleging that the US government had failed to rescue them or members of their families who were trapped in Gaza, where of course, as you very well know, Israel has and its forces have killed tens of thousands and more than 100,000 are injured, and we don't know how many hundreds of thousands are displaced as we speak in Palestine. Finally, let's take you to an Indian couple's life whose 3-year-old battle over the name of their baby has finally been settled by a court. A couple from India's southern state of Karnataka found themselves needing the courts to intervene following a 3-year battle over their son's name. In fact, they were even going for a divorce. Finally, the court has stepped in, and this feud that had begun since 2021 is finally coming to an end, just on the name of a child. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's show. We'll see you inshallah on Monday with new stories, segments that concern you and Pakistan. We wish you a great weekend and see you in a couple of days. Allah Hafiz.